Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. Elena, Hare Krishna. Nice to see you again already, so soon. Here we are back at the live studios in Radha Lane, and I'm changing all of my billing address and my official address. Shyam soon is going to take me down to the government office and get a Texas ID. I'm going to be a Texas Krishna. Hare Krishna. So I'm here in Radha Lane, live studios with the intimate devotees who love to hear about Krishna. That's what an intimate devotee of Krishna is. Yeah, a devotee who loves to hear about Krishna. That's what it means to be an intimate devotee of Krishna. And then, if you want to be even more intimate, then give him to others. Get others to hear about Krishna. That's it. Okay, let's hear Sanatana Goswami's glorification of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Srimad-Bhagavata Mahima Stotram. It's from Sri Krishna Leela Stava. It forms verses 412 through 416, and it is his 107th obeisance out of 108 obeisances that he planned to offer to the Vrindavan Leela of Krishna in this book. So here's what Sanatana Goswami had to say about the Srimad-Bhagavatam, because he offered his one of the last obeisances in the book, because the book Bhagavatam gave us Krishna Leela, period. It goes like this. Sarva Shastra Vipiyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaya Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalingvan Doditaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life, heir of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Shri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Shri Krishna himself. Madhika Bando Matsangin Madguro Mad Mahadana Mad Nistadaka Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadhutadayin atini chochatakara hanamun chagadachin mam premdarit kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Smoking gun. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So we've reached the 72nd chapter of the 10th canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam. This is the slaying of the demon, Jarasandha. Remember him? Krishna blew out his complete army. That means devastated, not just decimate. Decimate means a tenth of the army is finished. But he wiped out every single soldier except for him, and then sent him back in complete humiliation and so that his demoniac followers could build him back up again, and he could try it again 17 times. And the last time, Krishna just said, okay, and he ran off into the, and Jarasandha now thinks that he's the big guy because he defeated Krishna. Okay, so now there's a plan. You remember? Uddhava. Krishna asked Uddhava to make a plan. And Uddhava has given the plan. And Krishna, sorry about that. Uddhava gives the plan. And now Krishna, we're taking up at text 7, where Krishna is commending Uddhava for his plan. Or maybe it's Yudhishthira he's talking to, because he asked Yudhishthira why he wants to do or Yudhishthira's telling him why he wants to do the Rajasuya sacrifice, why he wants to become the king of the world, so that Krishna will be glorified. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Your decision is perfect, O King, and thus your noble fame will spread to all the worlds, O tormentor of your enemies." Purport. Lord Krishna here concurs with King Yudhishthira's decision that the Rajasuya sacrifice should be performed. The Lord further agrees that there is nothing unfair in the fact that one result is achieved by those who worship him and another by those who do not. The great Bhagavatam commentators point out that by addressing King Yudhishthira as Shatru Krsna, tormentor of enemies, Lord Krishna is imparting to him the potency to conquer all the enemy kings. Thus Krishna predicted that King Yudhishthira's noble fame would spread to all the worlds, and in fact it has. Maybe we could shut the windows now? I think it's pretty much aired out. What do you think? Pretty much aired out, isn't it? Thank you. Text 8. Indeed, my Lord, for the great sages, the forefathers and the demigods, for our well-wishing friends, and indeed for all living beings, the performance of this king of Vedic sacrifices is desirable. She'll get it now. She's powerful. The other. Well done. That's why they pay you the big bucks. Text 9. First, conquer all kings. Bring the earth under your control and collect all the required paraphernalia. Then execute this great sacrifice. Text 10. These brothers of yours, O king, have taken birth as partial expansions of the demigods ruling various planets. And you are so self-controlled that you have conquered even me, who am unconquerable for those who cannot control their senses. Purport. Srila Prabhupada writes in Krishna, it is said that Bhima was born of the demigod Vayu, and that Arjuna was born of the demigod Indra, whereas King Yudhishthira himself was born of the demigod Yamaraj. Srila Prabhupada goes on to state, Lord Krishna told King Yudhishthira that he is conquered by the love of one who has conquered his senses. Shall I repeat that? You wouldn't mind? Take a vote? No, okay, so unanimous. Lord Krishna told King Yudhishthira that he is conquered by the love of one who has conquered his senses. One who has not conquered his senses cannot conquer the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the secret of devotional service. One who has not conquered his senses cannot conquer the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the secret of devotional service. To conquer the senses means to engage them constantly in the service of the Lord. The specific qualification of all the Pandava brothers was that they always engaged their senses in the Lord's service. One who thus engages his senses becomes purified, and with purified senses, the devotee can actually render transcendental loving service to the Lord and conquer him. Text 11. There's no philosophy, there's no religious principle that can touch this idea that the devotee can conquer God. It's out of this world. Text 11. No one in this world, even a demigod, what to speak of an earthly king, can defeat my devotee with his strength, beauty, fame, or riches. Purport. Here Lord Krishna assures King Yudhishthira that he will have no problem conquering the worldly kings, since the king is a pure devotee, and the Lord's pure devotees can never be conquered, even by the demigods, what to speak of earthly kings. Although materialists are proud of their power, fame, beauty, and opulence, they can never surpass the pure devotees of the Lord in any of these categories. Text 12. Shukadeva Goswami said, upon hearing these words sung by the Supreme Lord, King Yudhishthira became joyful, and his face blossomed like a lotus. Notice the words were sung. They weren't just sentences. He was singing to him. Thus, he sent forth his brothers, who were empowered with Lord Vishnu's potency to conquer all directions. Text 13. He sent Sahadev to the south with the Srinjayas, Nakula to the west with the Matsyas, Arjuna to the north with the Kekayas, and Bhima to the east with the Madrakas. 14. After defeating many kings with their prowess, these heroic brothers brought back abundant wealth for Yudhishthira Maharaj, who was intent on performing the sacrifice. O king. Purport. Srila Prabhupada writes, it may be noted that by dispatching his younger brothers to conquer in different directions, King Yudhishthira did not actually intend that they declare war with the kings. Actually, the brothers started for different directions to inform the respective kings about King Yudhishthira's intention to perform the Rajasuya sacrifice. The kings were thus informed that they were required to pay taxes for the execution of the sacrifice. This payment of taxes to Emperor Yudhishthira meant that the king accepted his subjugation before him. In the case of a king's refusal to act accordingly, there was certainly a fight. Thus, by their influence and strength, the brothers conquered all the kings in different directions, and they were able to bring in sufficient taxes and presentations. These were brought before King Yudhishthira by his brothers. Text 15. When King Yudhishthira heard that Jarasandha remained undefeated, he set to pondering, and then the primeval Lord, Hari, told him the means Uddhava had described for defeating Jarasandha. 16. Thus Bhimasen, Arjuna, and Krsna disguised themselves as brahmanas and went to Giribraja, my dear king, where the son of Brihadrata was to be found. 17. Disguised as brahmanas, the royal warriors approached Jarasandha at home during the appointed hour for receiving guests. They submitted their entreaty to that dutiful householder, who was especially respectful to the rabbinical class. Purport. Srila Prabhupada writes, King Jarasandha was a very dutiful householder, and he had great respect for the Brahmanas. He was a great fighter, a Kshatriya king, but he was never neglectful of the Vedic injunctions. According to Vedic injunctions, the Brahmanas are considered to be the spiritual masters of all other castes. Lord Krishna, Arjuna, and Bhimasena were actually Kshatriyas, but they dressed themselves as Brahmanas. And at the time when King Jarasandha was to give charity to the Brahmanas and receive them as guests, they approached him. XT 18. Krishna, Arjuna, and Bhima said, O king, know us to be needy guests who have come to you from afar. We wish all good unto you. Please grant us whatever we desire. Text 19. What can the tolerant not bear? What will the wicked not do? What will the generous not give in charity? And who will those of equal vision see as an outsider? Purport. In the previous verse, Lord Krishna and the two Pandava brothers, Bhima and Arjuna, requested Jarasandha to grant them whatever they asked of him. Here they explain why there is no need for them to specify their desire. The Acharyas comment on this verse as follows. Jarasandha might be thinking, what if you request my son, from whom separation would be intolerable? To this possible objection, Krishna and the Pandavas reply, for a tolerant person, nothing is intolerable. Similarly, Jarasandha could object, what if you asked me to give my body or my precious jewels and other ornaments, which are meant to be given to my sons, not to ordinary beggars? To this they reply, for the generous, what is not to be donated in charity? In other words, everything is to be given. Jarasandha might also object that he could be giving charity to his enemies. To this his guests counter with the statement, Kak parak samadarshinam, for those with equal vision, who is a stranger? Thus Sri Krishna and the Pandavas encouraged Jarasandha to simply agree to grant their request without further discussion. Text 20. He indeed is to be censured and pitied who, though able to do so, fails to achieve with his temporary body the lasting fame glorified by great saints. So poetic, isn't it? 21. Prabhupada would be so proud of my godbrothers who did this. Huh? So proud. Translation. Harish Chandra, Rantidev, Unchavriti, Mudgala, Shibi, Bali, the famous hunter and pigeon, and many others have attained the permanent by means of the impermanent. I'll read that again. Harish Chandra, Rantidev, Unchavriti, Mudgala, Shibi, Bali, the famous hunter and pigeon, and many others have attained the permanent by means of the impermanent. Purport. Here Lord Krishna and the two Pandavas are pointing out to Jarasandha that one can use the temporary material body to achieve a permanent situation in life. Because Jarasandha was a materialist, they appealed to his natural interest in the heavenly planets, where life lasts so long that it appears permanent to people on earth. Srila Sridhar Swami briefly summarizes the history of the personalities mentioned in this verse. To pay off his debts to Vishwamrita, Harish Chandra sold everything he had, including his wife and children. Yet even after attaining the status of a Chandala, he did not become discouraged. Thus, he went to heaven, together with all the inhabitants of Ayodhya, Rantidev, or Ayodhya. Rantidev, after going without even water, without even water for 48 days, somehow obtained some food and water, but then some beggars came, and he gave it all away to them. In this way he attained Brahmaloka. Mudgala followed the practice of gathering grains left behind in the fields after the harvest. Yet still he was hospitable toward uninvited guests, even after his family had been suffering in poverty for 6 months. Thus he also went to Brahmaloka. To protect a pigeon who had taken shelter of him, King Shibi gave his own flesh to a hawk and attained heaven. Bali Maharaj gave all his property to Lord Hari when the Lord disguised himself as a dwarf Brahmanadev, and so Bali gained the Lord's personal association. Once a pigeon and his mate gave their own flesh to a hunter as a show of hospitality, and thus they were taken to heaven in a celestial airplane. When the hunter understood their situation in the mode of goodness, he also became renounced, and thus he gave up hunting and went off to perform severe austerities. Because he was freed from all sins, after his body burned to death in a forest fire, he was elevated to heaven. Thus many personalities have attained enduring life on higher planets by means of the temporary material body. Text 22. Shukadeva Goswami said, from the sound of their voices, their physical stature, and the marks of bowstrings on their forearms, Jarasandha could tell that his guests were of the royal order. He began to think he had seen them somewhere before. Purport. The Acharyas point out that Jarasandha had seen Lord Krishna, Bhimasen, and Arjuna at Draupadi's Swayambara ceremony. Since they had come begging in the guise of Brahmanas, Jarasandha thought they must be low-class Kshatriyas, as indicated here by the word Rajanya Bandhun. Rajanya Bandhun. Text 23. Jarasandha thought, these are surely members of the royal order, dressed as Brahmanas, but still, I must grant their request for charity, even if they beg me for my body. Purport. Here Jarasandha reveals his strong commitment to charity, especially when begged by Brahmanas. 24 and 25. Indeed, the spotless glories of Bali Maharaj are heard throughout the world. Lord Vishnu, wishing to recover Indra's opulence from Bali, appeared before him in the guise of a Brahmana and made him fall from his powerful position. Though aware of the ruse and forbidden by his guru, Bali, king of the demons, still gave Vishnu the whole earth in charity. Text 26. What is the use of an unqualified Kshatriya who goes on living but fails to gain everlasting glory by working with his perishable body for the benefit of Brahmanas? There's a parallel verse in the Bible. What gaineth a person if he gains the whole world but loses his imperishable soul? It's the same idea. Now we'll read this again. What is the use of an unqualified Kshatriya who goes on living but fails to gain everlasting glory by working with his perishable body for the benefit of Brahmanas? Text 27. Shukadeva Goswami continued, thus making up his mind, the generous Jarasandha addressed Krishna, Arjuna, and Bhima. O learned Brahmanas, choose whatever you wish. I will give it to you, even if it is my own head. 28. the Supreme Lord said, "O exalted King, give us battle in the form of a duel, if you think it fitting. We are princes and have come here to beg a fight. We have no other request to make of you." 29. Over there is Bhima, son of Pritha, and this is his brother Arjuna. Know me to be their maternal cousin, Krishna, your enemy. 30. Shukadeva Goswami continued, thus challenged, Magadharaj laughed out loud and contemptuously said, "All right, you fools, I'll give you a fight." Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti comments that Jarasandha felt inner satisfaction because he thought that his enemies had been humiliated by having to dress like brahmanas to approach him. Thus the Acharya understands Jarasandha's mind as follows. O weak ones, forget the botheration of fighting. Why not just accept my head? By dressing yourselves as brahmanas begging charity, you have made your heroism set like the sun. But if somehow you have not lost your courage, I will give you battle. The Acharya finally points out that the goddess of learning intends the phrase Amarshito Mandaha to read Amarshito Manda. In other words, Lord Krishna and the Pandavas are Amanda, never foolish, and that is why they chose the best tactic for doing away once and for all with the cruel Jarasandha. Text 31. But I will not fight with you, Krishna, for you are a coward. Your strength abandoned you in the midst of battle, and you fled your own capital of Mathura to take shelter in the sea. Of course, it was after 17 times of getting defeated. Hare Krishna. Text 32. As for this one, Arjuna, he is not as old as I, nor is he very strong. Since he is no match for me, he should not be the contender. Bhima, however, is as strong as I am. 33. Having said this, Jarasandha offered Bhimasena a huge club, took up another himself, and went outside the city. 34. The two heroes thus began battling each other on the level fighting grounds outside the city. Level fighting grounds outside the city. There was a place outside the city where you can go and duke it out, and figure out who's the winner. Maddened with the fury of combat, they struck each other with their lightning bolt-like clubs. As they skillfully circled left and right like actors dancing on a stage, the fight presented a magnificent spectacle. Purport. Jarasandha and Bhima here demonstrate their expertise in the use of clubs. Thus, it can be understood that both fighters were fearless and steady, even in the rage of battle. Text 36. When Jarasandha's and Bhimasena's clubs loudly collided, O king, the sound was like the impact of the big tusks of two fighting elephants, or the crash of a thunderbolt in a flashing electrical storm. Purport. This translation is based on Srila Prabhupada's Krishna. 37. They swung their clubs at each other with such speed and force that as the clubs struck their shoulders, hips, feet, hands, thighs, and collarbones, the weapons were crushed and broken like branches of orchid trees with which two enraged elephants furiously attack each other. Their clubs thus ruined, those great heroes among men angrily pummeled each other with their own iron-hard fists. As they slapped each other, the sound resembled the crash of elephants colliding or harsh thunderclaps. 39. As they thus fought this contest, as they thus fought this contest between opponents of equal training, strength, and stamina, reached no conclusion. And so they kept on fighting, O king, without any let-up. Purport. Samacharyas include the following two verses in the text of this chapter, and Srila Prabhupada has also translated them in Krishna. Evam tayor maharaja yudyato saptabhingshatihi dinani nidagangs tatra suridvan nishitishtatoho ekada matoleyam vai praharajan vikrodara na shakto hamjaras sandham nirjitum yudimadava. At the end of each day's fighting, they lived at night as friends in Jarasandha's palace. And the next day they fought again. In this way they passed 27 days in fighting. On the 28th day, Bhimasen told Krishna, "My dear Krishna, I must frankly admit that I cannot conquer Jarasandha." That's how powerful Jarasandha was. He was the most powerful king on the earth. Kamsa was like a little mosquito next to him, you know. He was getting all his power by, he married his daughters, so. Text 40. Lord Krishna knew the secret of his enemy Jarasandha's birth and death, and also how he had been given life by the demon Jara. Considering all this, Lord Krishna imparted his special power to Bhima. Purport. Srila Prabhupada writes that Lord Krishna knew the mystery of the birth of Jarasandha. Jarasandha was born in two different parts from two different mothers. When his father saw that the baby was useless, he threw the two parts into the forest. There they were later found by a witch named Jara, who was skilled in the black arts. She managed to join the two parts of the baby from top to bottom. Knowing this, Lord Krishna therefore also knew how to kill him. 41. Having determined how to kill the enemy, that Lord of infallible vision made a sign to Bhima by tearing in half a small branch of a tree. 42. Understanding this sign, mighty Bhima, the best of fighters, seized his opponent by the feet and threw him to the ground. Bhima pressed down on one leg with his foot while grabbing Jarasandha's other leg, and just as a great elephant might break the branch of a tree, Bhima tore Jarasandha apart from the anus upward. 44. The king's subjects then saw him lying in two separate pieces, each with a single leg, thigh, testicle, hip, shoulder, arm, eye, eyebrow, and ear, and with half a back and chest. Wow. Text 45. Who said there's no adventure in the Bhagavatam? With the death of the Lord of Magadha, a great cry of lamentation arose, while Arjuna and Krishna congratulated Bhima by embracing him. Text 46. The immeasurable Supreme Personality of Godhead, the sustainer and benefactor of all living beings, coronated Jarasandha's son, Sahadev, as the new ruler of the Magadhas. The Lord then freed all the kings Jarasandha had imprisoned. Purport. Srila Prabhupada writes, although Jarasandha was killed, neither Krishna nor the two Pandava brothers made a claim to the throne. Their purpose in killing Jarasandha was to stop him from creating a disturbance against the proper discharge of world peace. A demon always creates disturbances, whereas a demigod always tries to keep peace in the world. The mission of Lord Krishna is to give protection to the righteous persons and to kill the demons who disturb a peaceful situation. Therefore, Lord Krishna immediately called for the son of Jarasandha, whose name was Sahadev, and would do ritualistic ceremonies, he asked him to occupy the seat of his father and reign over the kingdom peacefully. Lord Krishna is the master of the whole cosmic creation, and he wants everyone to live peacefully and execute Krishna consciousness. After installing Sahadev on the throne, he released all the kings and princes who had been imprisoned unnecessarily by Jarasandha. Thus end the purports of the humble servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to the 10th canto, 72nd chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled The Slaying of the Demon Jarasandha. Jai! Bhima Ji Ki Jai! Well done, Bhima! Sri Krishna, the knower of everything. Go Premanandi. Hari Hari Bo. Okay. Moving on. Chapter 73. Lord Krishna blesses the liberated kings. This chapter relates how Lord Sri Krishna, after freeing the kings imprisoned by Jarasandha, mercifully gave them his audience and bestowed royal gifts upon them. When Lord Krishna freed the 20,800 kings Jarasandha had imprisoned, they immediately fell to the ground to pay him obeisances. Then they stood with joined palms and began to pray to him. Seeing their imprisonment as an act of mercy by the Lord to smash their false pride, the kings prayed only to be granted whatever would facilitate their perpetual remembrance of his lotus feet. The Lord assured the kings that their prayer would be fulfilled. He instructed them, "Worship me by performing Vedic sacrifices and protect your subjects in accordance with the principles of religion. Fixing your minds on me, beget progeny, and remain always equipoised in happiness and distress. Thus, at the end of your lives, you will surely attain me." Lord Krishna thus saw to it that the kings were properly bathed and dressed, and he had Sahadev offer them flower garlands, sandalwood pulp, fine clothing, and other things suitable for kings. After having them adorned with jewels and golden ornaments, he seated them on chariots and sent them off to their respective kingdoms. In accordance with the orders the Lord had given them, they began to carry out their various duties once again. Lord Krishna, Bhima, and Arjuna then departed for Indraprastha, where they met with King Yudhishthira and related to him everything that had happened. Text 1-6. Shukadev Goswami said, Jarasandha had defeated 20,800 kings in combat and thrown them into prison. As these kings emerged from the Giridroni fortress, they appeared dirty and shabbily dressed. They were emaciated by hunger, their faces were dried up, and they were greatly weakened by their long imprisonment. The kings then beheld the Lord before them. His complexion was dark blue, like the color of a cloud, and he wore a yellow silk garment. He was distinguished by the Srivat's mark on his chest, his 4 mighty arms, the pinkish hue of his eyes, which resembled the whorl of a lotus, his lovely cheerful face, his gleaming makara earrings, and the lotus club, conch shell, and disc in his hands. A helmet, a jeweled necklace, a golden belt and golden bracelets and armlets decorated his form, and on his neck he wore both the brilliant, precious Kaustuba gem and a garland of forest flowers. The kings seemed to drink his beauty with their eyes, lick them with their tongues, relish his fragrance with their nostrils, and embrace him with their arms. Their past sins now eradicated, the kings all bowed down to Lord Hari, placing their heads at his feet. Text 7. The ecstasy of beholding Lord Krishna, having dispelled the weariness of their imprisonment, the king stood with joined palms and offered words of praise to that supreme master of the senses. The king said, "Obeisances to you, O Lord of the ruling demigods, O destroyer of your surrendered devotees' distress. Since we have surrendered to you, O inexhaustible Krishna, please save us from this terrible material life which has made us so despondent." Text 9. O Master Madhusudana, we do not blame this king of Magadha, since it is actually by your mercy that kings fall from their royal position, O Almighty Lord. Purport. It is significant that upon seeing Lord Krishna and thus becoming purified of their sins, the kings did not feel any mundane hatred or bitterness toward Jarasandha, who had imprisoned them. Simply by seeing Lord Krishna, the kings came to the position of Krishna consciousness and spoke these verses, which showed deep spiritual wisdom. Infatuated with his opulence and ruling power, a king loses all self-restraint and cannot obtain his true welfare. Thus, bewildered by your illusory energy, he imagines his temporary assets to be permanent. Purport. The word unnada indicates that one who is intoxicated by false pride goes beyond the boundaries of proper behavior. Human life is meant to be governed by dharma, spiritual principles for gradual advancement to the perfection of Krishna consciousness. Blinded by wealth and power, however, a foolish person does not hesitate to act whimsically against the laws of nature and God. Unfortunately, this is now the situation in the prosperous Western countries. Text 11. Just as men of childish intelligence consider a mirage in the desert to be a pond of water, to those who are irrational, I'll read that again. Just as men of childish intelligence consider a mirage in the desert to be a pond of water, so those who are irrational look upon the illusory transformations of Maya as substantial. Some deep philosophy going on here. Everybody's soaking it in, right? Previously, blinded by the intoxication of riches, we wanted to conquer this earth. And thus we fought one another to achieve victory, mercilessly harassing our own subjects. We arrogantly disregarded you, O Lord, who stood before us as death. But now, O Krishna, that powerful form of yours called time, moving mysteriously and irresistibly, has deprived us of our opulences. Now that you have mercifully destroyed our pride, we beg simply to remember your lotus feet. (14) Never again will we hanker for a mirage-like kingdom, a kingdom that must be slavishly served by this mortal body, which is simply a source of disease and suffering, and which is declining at every moment. Nor, O Almighty Lord, will we hanker to enjoy the heavenly fruits of pious work in the next life, since the promise of such rewards is simply an empty enticement for the ears. Purport. Truth to power. One must work very hard to maintain a kingdom or political sovereignty, and yet the body, which works so hard to maintain one's political power, is itself doomed. At every moment, the mortal body moves toward death, and all along the way the body is subject to many painful diseases. The whole affair of mundane power is thus a waste of time for the pure soul who needs to revive his dormant Krishna consciousness. The Vedic scriptures and other religious scriptures contain many promises of prosperity and heavenly enjoyment in the next life for one who acts piously in this life. Such promises are pleasing to the ears, but they are nothing more than that. Material enjoyment, whether in heaven or in hell, is a type of illusion for the pure soul. By the personal association of Lord Krishna, the fortunate kings have now realized the higher spiritual reality beyond the phantasmagoria of the material creation. Text 15. Please tell us how we may constantly remember your lotus feet, though we continue in the cycle of birth and death in this world. Purport. One can constantly remember the Lord only by His mercy. Shall I repeat that? You don't mind? It's okay. Nobody objects. No objection certificate. One can constantly remember the Lord only by His mercy. Such remembrance is the easy method to obtain supreme liberation, as explained in Bhagavad Gita 8:14. Ananya chetak satatam yomam smariti nityashaha tasyaham subalak partha nityayuktasya yoginaha. For one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain, O son of Pritha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. This is a very important verse. You notice that constantly thinking, just remembering Krishna, is devotional service. And always remembering Krishna is constant engagement in devotional service. The words apisang saratam, iha, indicate that the kings were approaching Lord Krishna not merely for liberation, but rather for the boon of always being able to remember his lotus feet. Such constant remembrance is a symptom of love, and love of Godhead is the actual goal of life. Shall I read that again? This is too much. This is too good. These purports are too good. Such constant remembrance is a symptom of love, and love of Godhead is the actual goal of life. So all these songwriters who are singing about love, 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 they have got no idea what love is. Most of them, anyway. Text 17. 16. Again and again we offer our obeisances unto Lord Krishna Hari, the son of Vasudeva, the Supreme Soul, Govinda, vanquishes the suffering of all who surrender to him. 17. Shukadeva Goswami said, thus the kings, now freed from bondage, glorified the Supreme Lord. Then, my dear Parikshit, that merciful bestower of shelter spoke to them in a gentle voice. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, from now on, my dear kings, you will have firm devotion to me, the Supreme Self, and the Lord of all that be. I assured you this will come to pass, just as you desire. Text 19. Fortunately, you have come to the proper conclusion, my dear kings, and what you have spoken is true. I can see that human beings' lack of self-restraint, which arises from their intoxication with opulence and power, simply leads to madness. 20. Haihaya, Nahusha, Vena, Ravana, Naraka, and many other rulers of demigods, men and demons, fell from their elevated positions because of infatuation with material opulence. Purport. As described by Sridhar Swami, because Haihaya stole the desire cow of Lord Parashuram's father, Jamadagni, Parashuram killed him and his impudent sons. Nahusha became puffed up when he temporarily assumed the post of Indra. When out of pride, Nahusha ordered some brahmanas to carry him in a palanquin to an illicit meeting with Lord Indra's chaste wife, Shachi. Whoa! The brahmanas made him fall down from his position and become a snake. King Vena was similarly mad, and when he insulted the brahmanas, they killed him by loud incantations of the syllable Hum. Ravana was a famous ruler of the Rakshasas, but out of lust he kidnapped Mother Sita, and thus her husband, Lord Ramachandra, killed him. Naraka was a ruler of the Daityas, who dared to steal Mother Aditi's earrings, and for this offense he was also killed. Thus, throughout history, powerful leaders have fallen from their positions because they became intoxicated with their so-called opulence. Text 21. Understanding that this material body and everything connected with it have a beginning and an end, worship me, my Vedic sacrifices, and with clear intelligence, protect your subjects in accordance with the principles of religion. Text 22. As you live your lives, begetting generations of progeny and encountering happiness and distress, birth and death, always keep your minds fixed on me. Text 23. Be detached from the body and everything connected to it. Remaining self-satisfied, steadfastly keep your vows while concentrating your minds fully on me. In this way, you will ultimately attain me, the Supreme Absolute Truth. Text 24. Shukadeva Goswami said, having thus instructed the kings, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Master of all the worlds, engaged male and female servants in bathing and grooming them. Text 25. O descendant of Bharat, the Lord then had King Sahadev honor them with offerings of clothing, jewelry, garlands, and sandalwood paste, all suitable for royalty. 26. After they had been properly bathed and adorned, Lord Krishna saw to it that they dined on excellent food. He also presented them with various items befitting the pleasure of kings, such as betel nuts. Text 27. Honored by Lord Mukunda and freed from tribulation, the kings shone splendidly, their earrings gleaming, just as the moon and other celestial bodies shine brilliantly in the sky at the end of the rainy season. 28. Then the Lord arranged for the kings to be seated on chariots drawn by fine horses and adorned with jewels and gold, and pleasing them with gracious words, he sent them off to their own kingdoms. Text 29. Thus liberated from all difficulty by Krishna, the greatest of personalities, the kings departed, and as they went, they thought only of him, the Lord of the universe, and of his wonderful deeds. Text 30. The kings told their ministers and other associates what the personality of Godhead had done, and then they diligently carried out the orders he had imparted to them. 31. Having arranged for Bhimasen to kill Jarasandha, Lord Keshava accepted worship from King Sahadev and then departed with the 2 sons of Pritha. What a mission, huh? It's like an adventure, huh? 32. When they arrived at Indraprastha, the victorious heroes blew their conch shells, bringing joy to their well-wishing friends and sorrow to their enemies. 33. The residents of Indraprastha were very pleased to hear that sound, for they understood that now the king of Magadha had been put to rest. King Yudhishthira felt that his desires were now fulfilled. 34. Bhima, Arjuna, and Janardana offered their respects to the king and informed him fully about what they had done. 35. Upon hearing their account of the great favor Lord Krishna had mercifully shown him, King Dharmaraj shed tears of ecstasy. He felt such love that he could not say anything. Thus end the purports of the humble servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to the 10th canto, 73rd chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam entitled, Lord Krishna Blesses the Liberated Kings. Jai Lord Krishna. Well done, sir. Well done. Okay, we'll stop here the reading and we'll open up the open mic and let everybody get an opportunity to reflect on what they just heard. Yes, Bhaktidag. Start us off. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I thought it was interesting that when we were hearing about Jarasandha's, how he was thinking about the situation when he recognized them as Kshatriyas, he actually started reflecting on Bali Maharaj.
Yes.
I thought that was interesting. Could you speak on that a little bit?
Well, you know, it's very interesting how in that age, in that time, the Vedic culture was pervasive. And you couldn't actually function if you kept yourself out of the Vedic culture, then you couldn't. Hare Krishna, thanks for coming again. Please come again. Okay, Haribo. You know, you couldn't function. It's like now they have all these big organizations and guilds and what do they call them? Associations. You know, the markets, the stock market, and all these different kinds of markets, and they have these big trade fairs. And if you want to get in, you got to play the game. You can't just do it your way anymore. It's too much. And then everybody's interdependent on one another. So the Vedic culture was like that, but it was all based on the sacrifices, the Vedic sacrifices. Because everybody was materialistic. Not everybody, but mainly the kings were materialistic. And that's why they had that section describing the kings and how they felt before they got liberated by Krishna, and how they were repentant for their having become proud. So it's like that. Even the demons in those days would play by the rules, the culture. And especially they became famous if they were very charitable. It was what you did to be a king. You have to act charitably, otherwise you couldn't be a king. One Vedic principle. It's like that. Okay. But I thought, when I was hearing that, I thought something else. I thought, isn't it amazing that he's so proud that even though Krishna defeated him, as soon as he found out that was Krishna, his enemy, he couldn't tell that it was Krishna. I mean, Krishna doesn't just reveal himself to anybody. This is the perfect situation. That verse, Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Yogamaya Samavidaha. I'm not obliged to show myself to a fool and an idiot, So he only showed himself when he wanted to get the thing done, Yes, Pranav, please, take us further.
I thought it, how do I say, just a characteristic of Krishna's personality, that even his dealing with the demon, in this case Jarasandha, in the demon, in case he's always giving them benefits, even the demons, gives Putana liberation, and all these demons get some benefit from being either killed or humiliated. And in this case, Jarasandha, he actually gets this reputation as being extremely charitable to the Brahmanas.
Yeah.
Even though it was extremely materialistically motivated.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice to see someone's that much. He's like, you can just have my own head. Even this such a great charitable person. So Krishna kind of in one sense glorified him, even though he was gonna kill him. I thought.
Yeah, well, he was acting according to the rules, but his consciousness wasn't so good because he was just saying it sarcastically to them. He was actually putting himself above them. Actually, you guys you've already lost your fame just by coming to me and begging. That was his real mentality. And therefore, there are a lot of verses in the Bhagavatam that says you can't get Krishna by a charity, by austerity, by following Vedic principles perfectly, even by taking sannyas, by being a great scholar, performing a lot of rituals, sacrifices. You can't get Krishna any other way except for pure devotional service. And these personalities, Jarasandha, Hiranyakashipu, Ravana, they weren't performing pure devotional service. Far from it. Even though they were powerful. I mean, Hiranyakashipu had everybody, even Narada sometimes had to bow down. He didn't serve him actually, but sometimes he had to be, part of the scene, You can see now in this country you have a person who's just about to get impeached, and there's about 30 or maybe even more % of the people who just love him anyway. Never mind he's told so many falsities and done so much damage, culturally and to the reputation of America and the world, the Allies, snuggled up to enemies and everything. They love him anyway, because they think that their 401ks are bigger now, and therefore he's a genius, good guy, Yeah, it's a big, big lesson. What was the main lesson in the thing? What was the main lesson? Remember? Somebody remember?
In this chapter?
Yeah.
The intoxication of kingly opulence?
Yeah, you can't conquer Krishna unless you conquer your senses. That's the message of the chapter. You may be the most powerful person, but if you can't conquer your senses, you cannot conquer Krishna. Therefore Krishna says, Tasmat tvam indriyanyado niyamya bharatarshava papmanam bujahiyenam jnana vijnana nashanam. Regulate your senses. From the very beginning, regulate your senses and destroy this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization, lust. Lust, greed, and anger. 3 gates leading to hellish consciousness. And you have to be killed by Krishna rather than embraced by him. I think, if you don't mind, it's 7:30 almost, and you got something, oh good. Oh, I wanted to say also something to Rasika. Rasa Rasika. If Rasa Rasika is listening, or if he's listening later, I wanted to tell him that I'm very interested in what he had to say, and his proposal that he might want to help in taking this unique product that we have now, the whole Bhagavatam in this format, and he wanted to, like, the idea to help. So I sent your name to Mayapur Shashi, who lives in Taiwan, and he's very organized and very together. He's a retired lieutenant colonel of the British Army. He's really together. And he's thinking about becoming the coordinator of and builder of a team to do this project of taking all the videos that we've made in Facebook and transfer it over, or not transfer them, but copy them over to YouTube, which will be more accessible in some sense and easier to organize and access. So, yes, I'm very interested to get in touch with you, and you can email me at kbdgoswami, that's KBD Goswami, at iCloud.com, and then we can make that contact and then start a dialogue about it. Hare Krishna. Okay, who is it?
We've got Rasika's question from yesterday, or reflection from yesterday. Here we go, the question. Please accept my obeisances.
This is Rasa Rasika?
Yes.
Okay.
Please accept my obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. You posted the question today, which is more important, the ritual or the devotion? In relation to chanting japa, it seems most of the time it's a ritualistic type activity. Sometimes we do because we have to, not necessarily because we want to. How can we overcome this mood of our japa as a mechanical process, even if we are sincerely trying to overcome the offenses?
Well, first of all, you have to actually accept the right concept. You know, we maintain ourselves in the material world by material conceptions. The chanting of Hare Krishna is never ritualistic, never. And to consider it to be ritualistic is the 8th offense against the holy name. So the way to actually overcome this is to follow or avoid those 10 offenses. Attentiveness is one of the most important ones, because from attentiveness the others are automatically, and from inattentiveness the others automatically proceed. So yeah, we may think like that the Hare Krishna mantra is just a ritual because I'm not chanting it properly, or because I'm whatever. But it's not true. The chanting of Hare Krishna is always eternal, and it's always, the holy name is always eternal. It never becomes contaminated. We're contaminated, but the holy name is never contaminated, and there's no hard and fast rules for chanting the holy name, and that's the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. It is the Yuga Dharma. It is all sacrifices rolled into one. It is knowledge rolled into one. It's everything. So therefore, if we change our conception, you know, that our chanting is ritualistic, it may be mechanical, you know, it may not be perfect, it may not be offenseless, but Prabhupada says again and again and again, whatever you think and whoever you are, just keep chanting Hare Krishna. Don't stop, without stoppage. Remember? I read that famous purport in the 9th chapter, 931. Kauntya pradijamihi nami bhakta pranashati. And in that purport, Prabhupada says at the end, so it is usually, if one falls from an exalted position, he has to perform some ritualistic ceremonies. But in the case of devotional service, the only thing you can do, that you have to do, is to get back in devotional service. That's it. Because the devotional service is the highest practice. It's above the ritualistic activities of the Vedas. It's transcendental. We may not be transcendental, but it's always transcendental. Therefore, if you continue to chant under all circumstances, no matter what your consciousness, then you will become eventually liberated. Namaparada yuktanam namavevya aham agam. It means that the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is for offenders also. Because if you keep chanting and don't stop, the holy name of the Lord is the only thing that's actually powerful enough to remove all the offenses. So there's a saying that if you offend the holy name, then you can't, make any advancement, or you can't. But if you keep chanting and don't stop chanting, then eventually the holy name will deliver you, will remove your offenses. But the first thing is to stop thinking that chanting of Hare Krishna is a ritual just because I can't chant attentively, just because I'm chanting mechanically. It's never a ritual. There's never any loss in chanting the holy name. It is pure devotional service. If you offend devotees and keep chanting, then Krishna will withhold his mercy. He'll not give you that mercy. But if you keep chanting, eventually Krishna reveals that, or releases that mercy. But you can't stop chanting. That's the catch. And therefore, Prabhupada uses the term that chanting should be continued without stoppage. And that will protect one from all accidental fall downs. 931 purport. It's a fantastic purport. What else? Something else?
That's it. There are just some normal comments, greetings and things.
All right, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, thank you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Glories to Srimad-Bhagavatam. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. See you tomorrow night, same time. Yes, Friday. Same time, same station, Radha Lane, right here in 77018, Houston, Texas. Hare Krishna. Hari Bol.